You were looking
Ma'am,
at.
I got somebody out here who wants to come in and talk.
Oh, come on in.
It was so good.
What I told you? What I told you?
Okay.
Didn't I tell you?
I don't know if I
Well,
salute
y'all-
or what.
Right, welcome.
I don't know
Y'all
what to do
laughing
with
at
you.
me,
I'm sorry.
but
Give me liberty, give
my
me
name's Thomas Jefferson,
Oh, what's your mind?
and if it wasn't for me, you would be eating sugar cane and speaking French right now.
Oh, I think I'm a low.
Yeah, that's right. All because, and I am a strict constitutional conformist. You either, it's in the Constitution, that's what we're going to do. We're not doing anything outside. We're going to stay inside our box. My thoughts on government is I want a small government. In fact, I don't want any government at the national level at all. I want it all pushed down to the states. But we had a little issue. Napoleon Bonaparte over in France has been fighting with the Indians over here west of the Mississippi, and the Spanish came in to help him, and for their help he gave all of the Louisiana claim to Spain and apologized to them because it was so worthless. New Orleans was the only thing that had any value because of the port. All of the Mississippi River is in a basin. The rivers from the Appalachian Mountains, from the Rocky Mountains, pretty much all drain into the Mississippi. All the commerce, lumber, cotton, corn, whatever, beaver pelts, whatever we're exporting has got to go down these rivers to the Mississippi and then down to New Orleans. Well, Napoleon wanted to put a blockade on New Orleans and not allow us to export our goods. That wasn't good. We found out that he's fixing to have another war with Spain. Even though he just gave Spain this big chunk of land, he's fixing to go to war with them. And he needs a lot of money. I found that out. So I sent my representative over there, Mr. Livingston. He was the French ambassador. He went over there and told Napoleon's ambassador that if he blockaded New Orleans, we were going to marry ourselves to the British and blockade him. He decided he didn't want that fight. But before he decided that, he thought, I may be able to use my island down in the Caribbean, which was Santo Domingo at that time, to grow sugar cane. That's what they did. All with slave labor. They brought the slaves over from Africa and they were growing sugar cane on his little island. Well, the slaves decided they didn't want to be slaves anymore. So they revolted. So Napoleon, instead of being able to send all the troops to New Orleans to secure it, he sent them to Dominia to squash the rebellion. Unfortunately for him, they were pretty good guerrilla fighters. They knew the land. The French soldiers didn't. Another bad thing happened. There was malaria there. The French didn't know about malaria. Out of his 30,000 troops that he sent to squash this rebellion, and he was going to send those troops on over to New Orleans, there were only 5,000 of them left alive, and they were sick. So he couldn't use this money now to go claim and protect his little territory of New Orleans. That was the only important thing, was New Orleans. So I told Mr. Livingston to offer him some money for it. Well, how much money? Well, Congress said that we could spend up to $2 million to buy New Orleans. Pretty good deal. But once we got over there and found out what was going on, this war was coming with Spain. He needed more money. So we said, how about we buy more of this? We can give you more money. So we started negotiating, went back and forth, and finally he gave in and we got everything from New Orleans all the way up the Mississippi River to about Canada and across to the Rocky Mountains and back down to New Orleans. 850,000 square miles. We got it all for $15 million. 3 cents an acre. That's what we paid for that land. And we kept him out of New Orleans. He's gone now. But in New Orleans, there's still all the French and Spanish, because they were there too. But once we had this done, we were able to secure New Orleans and open up our Western territory. Now, y'all might not have known this about me, but I was a surveyor by trade. Before I got into politics, I was a surveyor. You see my survey equipment here. I brought it with me. Up until this time, we didn't even know what was on the other. I honestly thought there were dinosaurs over there. I did. I didn't know what was there. Nobody knew. Coming off track. I was a surveyor. Now, how are we going to take care of all this big land? We don't even know how big it is. So I came up with this idea, put it on a grid system. Because we've been using meets and bounds, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Meets and bounds, the Louisiana Purchase itself would be a meets and bounds survey. It started at New Orleans, that's our point of beginning, went up the Mississippi River to the Canadian line, across to the Rockies and back down. That's a meets and bounds survey. Really hard to draw all that out and figure out where everything is. So I gotta be a better way. So I came up with a grid system called a rectangular survey, which we're going to talk about in a minute too. Now, this big chunk was taken from a meets and bounds survey. So you can have one kind of survey and base another one off of it. We've got 3 kinds of surveys we're going to talk about. As Thomas Jefferson, I didn't know about the lot and block. They didn't have that when I was around. But I'm the one that came up with the rectangular survey we're going to talk about. Y'all ready to get started on that?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get started. I'm going to go back out here.
Hey, can I find that stuff? He did real good. He did real good. He did. I'm gonna have to remember. Let's give our actor a round of applause.
Down the hall. Ownership. Uh-oh. Oh, I don't have it on this. Give me a 14-year-old in here so I can have a computer.
You ain't gotta go that far. Maybe a 2-year-old can do it.
That shouldn't be on there. There we go. Home ownership. Y'all own your home?
You owns it.
Well, yeah, you share with the bank. But I've never seen the bank come cut my grass. Never happened. Home ownership is the American dream. Without a stake in real estate, chances are you're not ever going to have any wealth. Because that's the bulk of most Americans' wealth, is the equity in their home. Now, if you can get some equity in your home, and then get you another home, and another one, and another one, now you got a cash flow, passive cash flow off of somebody else's labor. They're not going to work and work in a week. Remember, 28% is what you can spend on housing costs. You got somebody working a week for you. What a deal. And it's all through home ownership. In our lesson tonight, we got some objectives. We want to learn the characteristics of real and personal property, how these boundaries are identified. That's our 3 methods. Be able to measure land. We've done some measurements already. What do liens do? How does that affect your property? And what kind of ownership can you have? There are different types. Why do I need to know this? Ontario, why do you need to know this? Because it's on the test.
That's number 1.
That's number 1. You were in here, this is called a high stakes test. This is a test that stops you from either getting in the business or not. Pretty much everything we have covered up to this point, and we'll cover for the rest of the weeks that we're here together, is because it's on the test. We don't get out in the weeds too much. So everything that we're talking about tonight and every other night, then bet it's on the test. Not every test, but enough of them until you'll need it. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. Looks like we got 8 questions on the salesperson's test dealing with ownership. We just talked about real personal, we got that, encumbrances, types of ownership. Let's take one at a time. Real property. Real property is land and everything that's attached to it, including rights. It's called a bundle of rights. And I didn't make this acronym up, but it's UP'd. And we'll get to UP'd in a minute. But these rights will include things like mineral rights that's down in the ground. You've got air rights. You've got other rights that run with the land, like if you have an easement to get into someone else's land and going over somebody's land to get to yours, that runs with the land. Just because you sell the property, that right is still going with it. You may have built a fence in the backyard. Well, the fence wasn't there when you bought the property, but you attached it to the land, and now when you leave, can you take the fence?
No.
No. You can take it up before you put the house on the market to sell. We're going to talk about grandma's chandelier, and you want to get it out of the house before anybody sees it. Pertinent, that's what we're talking about there. Got a little video here on pertinence. Y'all need to watch that. It explains this really well. Jim Hogan, he's got a school out in Arizona. He's got a lot of videos up on YouTube, just like Prep Agent Travis. I'm putting them up there now. There are a lot of resources out there, and sometimes I don't explain it well. He may better. Travis may do it better. Somebody may. So you can go out there and find other pieces of information to reinforce what you're learning. This is just one of them. Tangible and intangible. Tangible is that fence. You can see it. You can touch it. Intangible is the right to go across somebody's land. You can't see that. You can see the path where we've been going there, but you can't see the right. But it's there. There's your land. You've got down to the center of the earth, and it says up into space. But in reality, you're not going up that high. You can't tell airplanes not to fly over you. You can't. Yeah, they're not going to hear you. Goes down to the center of the earth. That's how we get those mineral rights. Down to the center. I don't know how we measure that all down through there, but if you've got like gold under your land or here coal, it's yours. if you own those mineral rights. These mineral rights can be sold off separately. Around here in Jefferson County, pretty much all the mineral rights belong to U.S. Steel, Drummond Coal, those kind of people. They bought them up, I don't know, 100 or 200 years, whenever they bought them all. Don't know who they bought them all from, but they own them. If you found coal under your house, it's not yours. It belongs to either U.S. Steel or Drummond or somebody.
So you don't
How can they
own,
sell you property without that being established?
That's a right. You can separate these rights. You can sell off your mineral rights, the water. You can sell the water that's on your land. It's your water. It's on your land. It's yours. Nobody else can use it unless you let them. You can sell those mineral rights. And in fact, here's all sold off. Physical improvements, all of it goes with it. Now the bundle of rights is this next, I think, where is it? There they are, bundle of rights. You peed. Let me go get something in here.
Hope you don't come and get up here.
Not to have this in here already, but here's your bundle of rights. They're sticks. So they're separate sticks. I got 5 different sticks here. This one says, I can use this property. See that up there? This is your bundle of rights. I can use the property. I can possess it. I can exclude others from it. I can encumber it, as I can put a mortgage on it. Or I can dispose of it any way I want to. That's my sticks. Now, you can separate these sticks out. Here we got them separated out. And Tamara, you're the owner. You get those sticks. Alicia, you are the tenant. You get to use it, possess it, and exclude others from it. You want her coming over and using a barbecue grill in the backyard? No. But she gave you that stick. It says you get to use a barbecue grill. Now she can only do a couple things. Now she can sell that property while you're living in it as a tenant. You have no say on that. But you have a lease with her that lease attached to that property, and it went with the property to the new owner. They're under your lease for the length of it. Now once that lease expires, the new owner you got to work something out with them. But she can sell it 10 times while you're living there. You don't care, as long as the new landlord take care of the place. You paying your rent, everybody's happy. Now, there were a couple other little sticks or strings on this stick. Oh, it's a deed. You had a deed to this property. Now, in your deed, we had a couple of things called, one is a defeasance clause. Defeasance, think of that word as defeatable. Because if that clause is in this deed, when she buys it, she bought that clause too. And that clause, there are 2 different types. There's a condition that if you do something on this property, the owner can take it back. Let's just say you had an awful time growing up and your mama and daddy and your grandparents were all alcoholics. And you just hate alcohol with a passion. And you said, if anybody ever sells alcohol on that piece of property, I get it back. Y'all think that's okay? If it's in the deed. If it's in the deed, then it is carved in stone. You got another one down here that says possibility of reverter. That's where you wrote in the deed when you sold it or somebody sold it to you, said as long as this property is used for a specific purpose, you can use it. But if you quit using it for that purpose, I get it back. It reverts back to me,
Does that mean
the
they
last
get
owner.
the buyback or they?
Take it. Gonna take court action to get it, but it's written in the deed that says, if you don't use this on, just say, your house is next to the church was growing, and you gave your house to the church. They could use it to have services in. All right, time rocks along, the church goes out of business. Your house wasn't part of the church now, because the church, they sold the church to somebody. Your piece of property over here, they sold it to a liquor store. Oh, we got two problems now, don't we? Two people may take, but they can, the people that gave it for the religious purposes can get it back because it's not being used for that purpose anymore. Those are written in the deed called defeasible. And defeasible is a word you've probably never seen before, will never see outside of real estate class. So think of defeasible as defeatable. The deed is defeatable if it's got that written in it. And they can, the owner, they can take it, they can snatch these sticks up and these sticks, take them all back. Okay?
When you say use subject to limitations, what do you mean you say subject to limitations?
Well, that could be what we just talked about,
Okay.
or it could be government limitations. Let's just say you have you're living in the middle of 100 houses here, and you're a residential house. Your limitation's going to be residential zoning. You couldn't open up a pizza parlor.
Right.
You can't do that because of government regulations.
Right.
UP'd. Use, possession, enjoyment, exclusion, and dispose of it the way you want to. And I think we missed one here. This is a credited prep agent. Real property goes with the real estate. Personal property goes with the person. Chattel is another word for personal property. He's got a saying, chattel, cattle, moves. Cattle would be personal property. I don't know how you could make cattle real property. The fence that holds them in, that's real property. That's going to stay with the property. But when you sell it, chances are you're going to take the cows with you. There's our defeatable. And see, they've got it spelled defeasible. But just think of it as defeatable. There's our determinable. Possibility reverter, or bottom on there, don't sell alcohol on property. You do that, we're going to take it back. We had a case like this. There was a guy out on Center Point Parkway that this was back when Center Point was just starting to grow. And he had a gasoline station, and they lived next door to the gasoline station on a corner. Their house. They lived there, and the gas station's next door. Well, they sold their house. And when they sold the house, what do you think they put in the deed?
Propaganda.
Right! You may never sell gasoline on this property.
Because they still own the gas station.
Yeah, he still owned the gas station at that time, and when he sold his house, he certainly didn't want a gas station opening up. So he put one of these in the deed. You can't sell gas here. Well, time went on. He sold that gas station. You think he cared about that anymore?
No, he didn't.
One day, I guess it's 10 years later, phone rang, and it was Shell Oil. They wanted to buy that piece of property next where his house used to be, but that was in it. What do you think Shell wanted to do there? They want to sell gasoline. So they said, how about we give you $10,000 to take that clause out? What do you think he said?
Yes.
You write the check. And so these can be bought out. You can put it in there, But things change. Later on, you can buy it out if you want to, or sell it out. Defeasible and determinable.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a real crazy question.
No, go ahead, Marcel.
So if you sell property, when you own the property and you put in a deed, what cannot be done on the
Yes.
property? And when you sell the property, 20 years down the road, you still have say-so on what?
It's a deed transfer. They don't
But I
put
thought
it
if you
It
sell
was
it,
written in the
in
deed,
the deed.
and that just goes all through time. Or time, whichever we're going time, up or down. But it's in that deed, and when Shell Oil did a title search on it, there that little clause was.
Wow.
Can't sell gasoline on this property.
Okay.
Had they not done a title search, they might have just bought it. You think his price would have gone up?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. Thanks, Steve.
We just did this with Alicia. She was the tenant. She got to use it, possess it, enjoy it, and exclude others from it. Within bounds. She can keep the owner off that property, but the owner has the right to go on that property and inspect it with notice. And it depends on different states, but here it's a 48-hour notice that you've got to give the tenant that we're coming on the property and why we're coming on. We're not coming on just to harass you, we're coming on to do a safety check. Well, we actually have a home inspector that works here on our rental properties, and he goes around and he checks smoke detectors, fire extinguishers. He's trying to make sure the house is safe and sanitary. If it's not, he lets us know, we get in there and fix it.
Yeah.
All looks kind of like personal property to me. What you think?
Yeah.
A laptop, this looks like, when I first saw this, I thought, well, this is out of some kind of medical office, till I saw that saw.
Yeah.
What kind of medical office is that?
Yeah, the dentist chair look like.
But these things, let's just say this is a dentist office. The dentist put all this stuff in that office. Whose property is it? Even though he drilled holes in the floor and bolted this thing down so it won't ever move. Nobody's ever going to fall over in his chair.
Right.
It's still his.
True.
Even though when his lease is up,
Yeah. He can take it with
he can take it with him. He's got to fix holes in the floor.
Right.
But that's his personal property,
Yeah.
and it's called a trade fixture. Y'all can look in our office right here. This is not nailed to the floor, so we're just gonna roll it out, no question about that. But this we have attached to the wall.
You just had to fix the wall.
Right. The new people that come in here, they don't want to come in here and find this hanging on the wall. They want to find a nice smooth wall. So you're going to take your stuff with you after your lease, but you got to fix anything you damaged. Not permanently attached, transfer. Oh yeah, bill of sale. Your property. Let's just say you're another dentist, and you're going to move in. This other dentist is retiring, and you're taking over their practice. And you come in here, well, this stuff, even though now it's attached to the floor, but it's really not real property, it's going to transfer with a bill of sale. The building is going to transfer with a, what? Deed. But the personal property is going to transfer with a bill of sale. Called a fixture. Now here's how I can go back and forth. You got a seed in your hand. Is that personal property or real property? Personal property. Now you stick it in the ground. Now what is it? It's real property. It grows into a tree. What is it now?
Fixed.
Real property. Real property. Now, we got a couple of words here we need to be aware of. Let's just say this tree is just growing. You just planted one little tree and it's just growing there. That's a natural, frutus naturalis it's called. Watch these weird I almost said Italian words, but I think they're Latin or something. That tree, if it's just like growing out in your front yard, that's just natural. It's just growing there naturally. You can also have trees in a tree farm. You planted these as a crop. Now, that's got different rules behind it. You can come back in after you sell the property or the lease expires, and you can come in and harvest your stuff, whether it's trees or corn. Those are called implements. Did I put that word up there? All right, implements is what's this? This is called the fruitus industrials. Like you planted a crop, that's still your crop, even though you sold the property or your lease expired. But when you buy something like that, be sure to write it in the contract so there's no guesswork. I know exactly what your intentions are here, because we're going to get to intentions in a minute. Now, our tree, we cut it down. So it's gone back to personal property. It's personal property because it's lumber. Still personal property, even though we cut it up into 2x4s. Now we take those 2x4s and build a house with them. What's it become now? Back to real property. Some of the lumber you made into rocking chairs, which you sat on the front porch of the house. You sat on the front porch. Oh, but it's still personal property. Sure is. When you leave, you're probably taking rocking chairs with you, but you're not taking the studs that are holding the wall up. Mention intentions. Maria, this is the test of a fixture. A fixture, we just talked about, like the dentist chair that's attached to the floor is called a fixture. Now, if you're getting ready to move out of this place and you're going to buy this place, there are a lot of things that are going to go into whether this is a fixture, personal property, real. What is this? First is method of attachment. Well, that chair was just in 3 or 4 bolts holding it in. But what if the method of attachment, it was this really nice piece of oak that's 30 feet long and it's holding the rafters up? Can you take that with you? Because if you do, it's going to fall in. So the method of attachment is going to determine, can I take it without destroying the property? Adaptability for purpose. Well, there's a dentist chair sitting here, and we're going to have an insurance office. Why would we even want that in here? Please get that out. Relationship of the parties. That could have been family. We maybe getting grandma's house and we're dividing it up. We got a chandelier. Everybody wants a chandelier. And well, who did grandma want that to go to? And maybe her intentions is going to decide where this personal property that's affixed to the house is going. And it could be an agreement. Like our dentist chair, the new dentist is coming in. He said, well, why don't you just keep this chair? And the new dentist says, well, no, it's got pedals for the drill. You have to do your feet like that. I don't want that one.
Lose a chair,
There's our tangible. We touched on that because you can touch something that's tangible. This is tangible. And it's still chattel. It's personal property. It's a fixture right now, but it's really personal property. And when we move, it's going to move with us. Bill of sale, got that. Now, if you have something like these personal properties, remember we had on our contracts, we had an addenda, which adds to the contract, and we have an amendment, which mends the contract. Any of this personal property is going to be with, where is it? I got
Right there.
Yeah, there it
Added to
is.
the sales contract.
It's going to be an addenda. And the contract says personal property addenda. And it's got a lot of stuff listed on there already, like curtains and mirrors and things like that, that some people may want, they think, well, that's my curtains.
Yeah.
I'm take them with me. Well, there's a personal property addenda that you address these things. Remember, we don't want contracts that can be understood. We want contracts that cannot be misunderstood. Address it. Chandelier, this is the one that Grandma's got the chandelier, been in the family for 100 years. Thomas Jefferson gave it to her. Well, you think the family wants that to stay when they sell Grandma's house? No, they want that to go with them. Now, we put this house on the market, the buyer comes through and sees the chandelier. Do they think that goes with the house?
Yeah.
Absolutely they do. Get it out of the house before you put it on the market. Go down to the Home Depot and get you another one. Don't get the cheapest, rattiest one you can find, the one that's broken. Get one that would kind of match the house. Because you don't want the buyer walking through here saying, that's an odd looking fixture. Wonder why that's there. But don't ever leave Grandma's chandelier hanging for a seller to see it, because it's gone. Because they're going to run that personal addendum is going to say, Grandma's chandelier to remain. And it's also going to say at no value. That's going to hurt you even more. Okay, real estate transferred by a deed, personal property is bill of sale. Now, a deed is actually a piece of paper. When you got the property, you got a deed. You didn't get a title with it. That wasn't a piece of paper. A title is a chain of all the owners and everything that's been recorded against this property back from its very beginning. I got one in here that somebody gave me where it was when the government originally transferred their ownership to private. It's called a grant. And I got one in here from somebody gave me where their family had been granted this property, and it was President Grant that granted it to them.
Oh, okay.
I'll get that and put it up here one day. But your evidence is title. Title's not a piece of paper. Title's the evidence of ownership. Deed is the piece of paper that transfers that ownership. Okay, we got the
That's
trail.
kinda confusing. Yeah, it will,
All
yeah.
right, back up.
Because like with the car, for example, it's a title, that's your paper.
You get a title with your car. It does say title on it, but real estate's different. Real estate, it's a deed. The title to the real estate is just an abstract of everything that has happened. Yeah, chain of ownership and chain of everything's been recorded against it. Liens, judgments, anything like that that's recorded against this property is listed on the title.
So when they do the title search, that's what they're looking for, the
Yes, everyone is owned it.
Okay.
Thank you. It goes back to, let's just say, you bought the house 10 years ago. You have the title policy that was issued to you when you got the house. They mailed you the title policy. Now, if you can get that title policy when you sell the house again, you can give them the first page of that to the new title company that's going to run the search. They only have to search back to here and guarantee it back to here. So they'll give you a discount on the new title policy because they're just insuring about 10 years now. Less risk. Okay, so we got that. Did that clear it up any? Okay. Trade fixture, we talked about trade fixtures, how all that works. Water rights. Two different kinds of water rights. One's called riparian. The way I keep this together is I put all my letters together. We got a riparian, of ripples, of rivers. Keep our orders together. Riparian.
You've just been so fast today. You've been so fast today.
You're talking Spanish.
This is gonna depend on the body of water, what the rights are. The other one is littoral. Littoral, lunar, large lakes. That's like the Gulf of Mexico, the ocean, the Great Lakes would even be on this because it's lunar action that makes the water move around. All right, we're going to see how that happens in a minute. But you have rights on this water. The water passing through your land, you can use it, but you can't stop it or pollute it. That's in Alabama. West of the Mississippi, you got different rules on water rights. Out there, there's not a lot of water, so they kind of stingy with their water. But here, we're pretty open with that. Only time I've heard of this being a trouble was a few years ago. Alabama and Georgia got fighting over water right down to where it goes into Florida. I don't know why they were fighting over it, but it's my water. No, it's my water. Well, here's the rules. That's whose water it is. It's a river. It's navigable. You own to the edge of the water. You can pull water out of it, but you can't stop it or pollute it. Here's how it works. This little stream, do you think that would be riparian rights or littoral rights?
It's non-navigable. Riparian.
That's riparian rights we're going to have here. It's non-navigable. You're going to own to the center of this waterway. Like if this is your lot right here, you're going to own to right there.
Why just to the center?
I didn't make the rules.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Maybe because if it's another household on this side, then they go to the.
Yeah, their
So
land
that's probably
goes to
why.
there.
Well, what if their land was on the other side?
Talking about the other person?
You're assuming that there's a different owner on the other side. And
Well, if you
kind
own all
meet in
of
the
it,
middle.
then it's yours.
Okay.
But let's go back to one of our survey methods, the meets and bounds. A lot of those, the boundary is a river or creek. And that boundary can change if the creek changes. That doesn't sound
You
fair.
talking about,
Erosion or something?
Yeah, erosion.
okay.
Say the water comes around here really fast around this curve. Over time, it's going to eat into this one, and this one over here is probably going to come this way. These people will get more land. You're losing land. But that's in a meets and bounds survey only. But here, let's go back to our division. All this stuff came from Lynn Elder, one of the people that's helping me learn this stuff. He gave us these slides. Thank you, Lynn. Here's one that's navigable. So, where does this person's, you own this land, how far does your property, where's your property line?
Just to the
To the
border?
end?
Right there.
Yeah.
The edge of the water because it's navigable. These people own to that edge. The middle belongs to the public. There's our public and there's our
So the other owner, whatever.
yeah, there's their property line, there's their property line.
That makes sense.
And there's public. I like the way Lynn did this. I need to get him to teach me how to do PowerPoint. How about, all right, these are all riparian rights. Here's littoral rights. Looks like the beach. Looks like waves coming up on the beach. These people right here, where do you think their property line is?
At the end of the
Here?
beach? No. the end of the
Here?
beach. No, the beach is public.
Oh, right there at the, where that tree at.
Where's the tree?
Cause the other is the sand and you can't, that's the part of the beach.
Exactly. You own to the high water mark, the average high water mark. So right here, let's just say the tide comes in and out, in and out, in and out. Well, there's a point here to where this is about where it comes on average.
Okay.
That's the property line. What happens, land like this, think of Panama City. You know, the condos are built just like this, right up on the beach, but you have hurricanes that come in. Well, every time a hurricane comes in, they lose some of the sand. Eventually, the high water mark gets so close to the road here that you can't build in this area. There's not enough space to put something. So over time, your property lines can change, just like they did with the riparian rights. Littoral works the same way. There's public. Foreshore. 7 years ago. I didn't know that word. Came up here, so I don't think that word's on the test. But the state, the public owns that. It's always amazed me how some of these big hotels will try to keep people away from, and where's the property line? Well, I've got a video on one of these where the police are harassing somebody because the hotel didn't want them sitting in front of the hotel. So they called the police on them. The guy knew his rights. It was funny.
And when they couldn't do nothing.
And there we go. Can you prevent people from walking in front of your beachfront condo?
No.
Not if they're down on sand. Now if they're up on maybe
The walkway,
your
the
side
walkway or
of
something?
the property line, you can keep them out of there. But if they're just walking past the front of you out there, you just better let them walk. You got some other rights that go along with the property. Subsurface support. Let's just say the coal companies that we just talked about, remember they own the mineral rights under you. They can come under your house and dig out coal.
Oh, goodness.
But what if they dig up right to your foundation and then move on?
But what about if it starts to sink?
You have the right to subsurface support. They can't dig under your house and let your house fall. Another example of it, going up Red Mountain Expressway, just before you get into Birmingham, there's just two big apartment buildings right there. Y'all know where it is? Highland Avenue? Well, there's a big hole between these two buildings. That wasn't there when they built these things. But when they put the expressway through, they had to dig down. They had to shore up and support the land on either side of them so these apartments wouldn't fall in the hole. Subsurface minerals, we've talked about that, can be sold separately. Now your airspace above, you can't stop the airplanes.
No.
Can't do it. They're not allowed to fly closer than 500 feet to you. But you don't even really want them that close. But you can't stop them. A new thing that's coming along is going to be solar rights. As more people have solar panels, you're not going to be able to put up like a building in front of them that would block their solar use.
Well,
Okay, we got that. Real property transfers with a deed, personal property transfers, bill of sale. Okay, we got that section knocked out. Now we want to talk about the descriptions. How we actually describe property, how we measure it. And there's a difference between total and livable. Don't get our water and mineral rights again too. This, think of the Louisiana Purchase, started in New Orleans. That's called a point of beginning. Every meets and bounds survey has a point of beginning. This is the first type of survey that we use. And the original 13 colonies. Remember, Thomas Jefferson was the one up there measuring all this stuff. And that's what they used in the original 13 colonies. Georgia was one of 13 colonies. They use this. You describe it. You have a point of beginning. And then it's going to lead you around. It's going to say, go this way, 90 degrees, 100 feet to the center of the creek. All right, went to the center of the creek, that's a point. And next one says, goes along the center thread of the creek. The creek moves, the property line moves. Goes up to another point, and then it tells you all the way around, and it'll end up back at the point of beginning. Old survey called the meets and bounds. Meets, think of that as meters. That's a distance measurement. Bounds is direction. So your meets and bounds, there it is, 90 degrees, 100 feet.
You said the bounds was,
This compass direction. Direction.
and then the meets was,
Meets is like meters.
Did you say distance for meters?
Yeah,
Okay.
meets.
I heard distance and direction. The meets is distance and bounds is direction.
And have one of my other toys out here. See, meets,
Okay.
meets, meets. That's meters. And then the other one, you get that one. That's the other one. Meets and bounds. Definition. This is something that could be on the test. The definition of a survey is a surveyor can find the boundaries of the property. All you got to do is give him the meets and bounds directions, or the other two that we're going to talk about. You tell him those numbers, and he can find that piece of property anywhere on earth and can pinpoint it. We're going to see in a minute how Thomas Jefferson was able to measure property where the dinosaurs he thought were without ever going there. Well, you can't do that with this one. Meets, surveyor can find the property boundaries. There's a little bit there, a benchmark. Benchmark. Here's a benchmark right here. It's usually going to be this like brass plate that they'll mark somewhere, and then they will measure from that point. But a benchmark is a point, a mark, a stone post, some other permanent feature that's there. And then they will take this thing and put it on that and look through that, and they can measure it. And say, okay, there's that point, here we are, that's this many degrees, this distance. Datum point, all right? If you were living in a condominium on the first floor and you had a survey of your space and there were 14 floors above you, don't you think their survey would look just like yours? Yeah, it would. So you got to have a datum point.
Was it the height?
Datum is height. That's going to measure. It got your little thing of basis for horizontal control surveys. Yours, if you were on the first floor, would be a number, and then the one that looks just like yours is going to be a datum point of maybe plus 10 feet or 15 feet, whatever. That's its base floor. Street address. There's a lot of 1, 2, 3 main streets. So you can't say, well, that's my legal description, 1, 2, 3 Main Street. No, there's a bunch of them. But there's only one that's going to reference a meets and bounds survey, or our next rectangular survey. It'll reference that, and there's not another one like it. We'll see how that plays out here. Y'all seen these? That's what surveyors do. They mark it, so the owner's going to know there's your point right there. The owner can go out there and measure all that. Most of the time it'll be a little iron rod that they drive in the ground. Sometimes they'll have to be out there with metal detectors to find, because dirt's piled on top of it over the years, leaves have fallen, but it's still gonna be there, probably 3 feet down in the ground. And they do it that way so people can't.
Just come pull it up.
This is an interesting point too here. People used to do this. They would put their fence on the inside of their property a little bit so their neighbor couldn't hook to their fence and get that side for free.
Oh, okay.
So you'll still see that every now and then. In a community, like a new home community, they'll be right on the line, but out in farms, places like that, you're not using my fence. Data point, this will have the elevation, and it'll tell you where it is. I'm not sure where that one is. Okay, we got meets and bounds. Any questions on meets and bounds? Got that one pretty good? Thomas Jefferson is the one that came up with this one. The rectangular government or geodetic. It's got 3 different names. But the survey is based on longitude and, latitude and longitude. It's changes in latitude, changes in attitude. That's where I remember that. Yeah, baselines, we're going to get to those in a minute. They are ours. Let's go to the map first. This is what the basis for the rectangular survey looks like in Alabama. Remember, Georgia over here was one of the original colonies, but Alabama was not. So when they started surveying all this land over here, they used a rectangular survey in Alabama. Huntsville baseline, that's actually the Tennessee-Alabama line. That's where they start, and they measure down from there. This one they started from the Florida line and measured up. I imagine right in here is kind of goofy because two are coming together right there. You have to have 2 lines to intersect. You're going to have a baseline. That's our township line. So you're standing here looking like a T. It's a township line. And then you've got the meridian line. We call ours Huntsville Meridian. It's just an easy way you can say the Huntsville Meridian, and that tells the surveyor where that line is. He doesn't have to look all over a map on every state to find the Huntsville Meridian. There's only one. Down here we got the St. Stephen's Meridian. That was the original capital of Alabama. So they made that a line and marked that way from there. It's just 2 lines arbitrarily that they measure from. That's your township baseline starts and then they come down. Each 6 miles there's another line. It goes all the way from Mississippi to Georgia. And it just keeps coming down. Every 6 miles there's another line, township line. From the Huntsville Meridian we can go east or west every 6 miles. And where these 2 lines intersect, the township line and the range line, meridian line, those form little squares. You see that? See all those little squares? Those are called townships. Makes sense. Township line, township, it's where it intersects. Each one of those townships will have a name. If you were here at the Huntsville Meridian and you came down one, you're going to be 1 south. You're in the next one, it's 2 south. We're all the way down here in Birmingham. It looks like we're about 19 townships south. So we could say we are in Township 19 south, Huntsville 3 west, and that puts a surveyor can tell you within 6 miles where you are. Y'all see that? I'm seeing a head shaking. Some township line, meridian line, where they intersect, say township.
So the meridian line also is a township line.
It intersects township lines.
Intersect.
Yeah, it's called a range line or meridian. Meridian actually is the Huntsville meridian. And then each line east or west of that's a range line. Y'all have heard downrange? That's where this is coming from. There's actually songs out, I can't remember the name of the song now, but it talks about, it talks about the range and how these are done. All right, so we got our townships. The township looks like that. It's 6 miles. Each one of these is 1 mile square. So there's 6 miles by 6 miles, so there's going to be 36 of them within a township. We're not going to get real deep in this because there's only, I think, 2 questions on legal descriptions. I want y'all to just kind of get the gist of it. Don't get too deep into it because there's just too much to look at for 2 questions to study that hard on. Know how it works, and then you'll probably get through the question. But the township, each township's got 36 sections in it. So if it's 6 miles across, each one of these little sections is going to be 1 mile by 1 mile. See it over there? 1 mile by 1 mile. The other night we were talking about fence. When I was showing you how you remember a mile. Oak Mountain's 5 miles down Highway 280. All right, your question easily could be, how many feet of fence does it take to go around a section? Well, you got to know this, to know this, to know that. So it's, yeah, so you got to follow it on down. That's why I'm telling you, there's only 2 questions out of 100. Just know how it works. Because the question's probably going to be something like this. How many feet of sections it take to go around, how many feet of fence does it take to go around a section? Just know that a section's 1 mile by 1 mile, and they fit in like this. Now, how much acreage is in a section? All right, since it's 1 mile across by 1 mile, you can do the math and figure it out, but there's 640 acres in a section. Y'all have heard the saying, 40 acres and a mule? That was part of the land rush when they were trying to get people to go out and settle a new area. Well, they would give them 40 acres. That's this little spot right here, 40 acres. 640 acres total. Each quarter section would have 1/4 of that. And then that can divide into fourths. And they may ask you, how many acres are in this section? Well, you can just divide it backwards. I know I got 640 total, and you want to know how many are in 1/4 of a section? Well, I just got to divide the 640 by 4. You want to know 1/4 of a quarter? Well, you just divide it again. All the sections look just alike, and they stack together like Legos. So this section looks just like this one. See the 31 here, you got 31 here, and the 6 right above it. So this one's sitting just on one that looks just like it. They all look just alike. You got to know that they are numbered backwards. Remember, this is a government survey. It's going to be backwards. One's going to be over here, and we're going to come back this way, drop down. The test question is going to say, what section is above, or what section is north of section 1? All right, well, if you know what a section looks like and how it's numbered, then you can actually draw it on the paper. All right, 1's here, so that means it's got to be 36. It's going to be the one north of 1.
Start over again.
Yeah, because they all look just alike. They may say, what section is west of 6? Well, that's going to be another one sitting here just like that, so 1's going to be west of 6. That's what they look like from the air. Y'all seen this. Y'all been in an airplane. You ever looked down and seen this?
You ever been in a plane and guess what? They ain't going.
That's what they look like. You look at that. There's a section right there. And you can see some of these have been divided up. There's a quarter of a section right there. See it? And there's where somebody's jumped over here and got a quarter of that quarter. And you can look around on this and you can see it. I see how that works. There, I just had to go up in an airplane to see it.
No, I ain't gonna see it.
So if you're looking at like, they're building another phase in my subdivision and they sent out a map of what the new phase looks like and it's got a bunch of rectangles. Is that basically what they've done?
Probably. A lot of times those new home communities, they'll buy the whole section. Or they'll buy half of it, and there'll be a long straight line somewhere where they bought up to that point. And probably got an option on that other side. So if things go well here, we can option this and buy that property and just keep building. But that's what they look like. Okay, we got that. 5 miles down Highway 280. That's how many feet are in a mile. And why don't we, before we go any deeper in this, it's 7 o'clock. Let's take a break. Hey, that's about an acre. Did y'all know the earth was not flat?
Oh, no, Thomas Jefferson?
Well, my son told me, he said, you know, the Flat Earth Society's having their meeting in Australia. I said, seriously? Don't they know that's on the other side? Well, the Earth's round, which y'all probably learned, and our rectangular survey, which this is our rectangular survey, they're all moving toward the north. So how these lines are kind of moving toward the north. You have a thing called a correction. It's like a government check or correction lines because the earth is not flat. They had to correct for that. So you'll have a correction here every 24 miles. You can see how you got a little slice right here that's missing. Well, each needle gets thinner and thinner all the way down here. Doesn't matter a lot here, but up here, that looks about like a section that's out of there. So that's going to mean a lot there. But it's 24 miles by 24 miles, government correction. Let's go back to this one. Probably need to move those slides. You see, Alabama wasn't one of the 13 colonies, so it got put into this rectangular survey, and you can see there's that baseline we talked about, the Huntsville baseline, there's the St. Stephen's baseline, and there's its meridian, there's the Huntsville meridian. And these other states, you can see they're kind of like that too. That one's divided a couple of ways.
Alaska over there is like that divided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of them in Alaska. So you got a bunch of different ones. A lot of these will be on a longitude line. Will be what marks it. You can see the United States that way. See the line right through there, and they'll have them. There's one right on that line.
This may be a little off. Are there still 50 states? Will the correct answer still be there are 50 states?
Plus the District of Columbia.
But if they ask you how many states are in the United States?
I'm going to go with 50.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 50. We've got some territories we protect.
Right.
Like the Virgin Islands.
Right.
And but it's not a state. I think it won't be a state. Puerto Rico wants to be a state. Hawaii's out there long further than Puerto Rico is from us. So it looks like we say, come on, grow some sugar cane. So that's the rectangular survey, how it looks. And you can see all the different ones through there. And we have one, where was it? Yeah, there we go. There's one of these right here. That's broken off. You can see how it ate into that section. We've covered meets and bounds, and we've covered rectangular. This one's called lot and block. Lot and block will be referenced based on a recorded plat map. It'll have these 5 things in its description. You gotta have the state that we're in, the county, the subdivision name, and then you have block number, that's like block 1. Lot number, there's lot 1, 2, 3. Each one of those, all surveyed out. This has to be turned into the county. They have to approve it, and then it's recorded. And when you buy a house, it'll say
Lot such and such.
fertile acres amended is the subdivision name. And down here in the bottom or somewhere, we'll have the county. So it'll reference the state, the county, then the subdivision name, block and lot, and that identifies your lot out of all the lots in the United States. There can be other subdivisions with the same name.
Right.
You can have a lot of Green Acres or Mountain View or there's some common names. There may be a bunch of them, but they're not going to be in the same county and same state. This is a survey that I tried to put everything on there that we could put on a survey so you could see it all at once. This survey, you can see the lines drawn out here. It looks like there's some iron pegs here to where it went and turned a little bit, turned a little bit, turned a little bit. It was matching this railroad bed. There used to be a railroad line that went right in here. Woodward coal and iron. They used to mine coal right here. There was a place where the trains went in right here and loaded up with coal. Well, that train line's gone, but that easement is still there. It looks gross. Your utility easements, railroad, subway, power lines, are all called gross easements because they're in gross. They cover a lot of area and they look gross. That's why I tied those two together. This is called a spot survey, or another word for it is as drawn. See, this one's got everything drawn on it. It's got Spot's house drawn right here. Spot's driveway is here. There's an easement right here between these 2 lots. This easement is actually drawn on the survey and recorded. So these people can't just put a fence up right here because this land belongs to this house. This piece of property right here belongs to this land. Driveway in, looks like a little front porch. There's the house, there's a deck. Everything's drawn in. Now this is lot 1. There was lot 2 and I guess that's lot 3. There's our 7th Avenue going across here. This is going to be the front foot. There's your depth. This one, we've also got a lake on it. And the little old man that lives over here likes to fish in the lake. So these people gave him a personal easement to come over here from his house and fish in this lake. As long as this person and the little old man are alive, the personal easement is alive.
Okay.
So you can't void it?
Yeah, they can. But it's alive, and they don't have to, every time he comes to the property line, he doesn't say, "Can I come today?" They gave him permission to go fish anytime you want to fish. Might have said, "Bring me some every now and then."
How is that
So is that a
recorded?
document?
It's
or
not
something?
recorded. It's just a personal agreement between the 2 owners. Now, if we wanted to make it permanent, like maybe there was, I don't know, say there's a school or something over here that, I don't know, that'd still stay personal.
So that's like he gave him a license.
Yes.
Okay.
And it is a license, revocable, and it would, but a license, I'm not sure if it would die with either party. This one, personal easement, dies when the person dies.
Okay.
I'm not sure, all right, this is a recorded easement right here. That one goes with the land. This person dies, sells it, that goes with the land. It can't be taken out of the deed. It's there. All right, also over here, we see an encroachment. See the property line right here? Looks like he built his garage. He just, you know, he said, well, it looks like it'd be just fine here. My driveway comes up here, we'll just put it right there. And by the time he got through with it, this guy looks out there and said, I think that's on my yard. Well, he can either make him tear it down, he could sell him that little piece, he could give him a lease on that little piece, or he could pay him rent on it. They could work out whatever they want to work out. This one, you probably just leave it alone since you let him do this. Let him do that too, and then we'll deal with it in the future.
We had a house that was on almost an acre, and it veered toward the back of the property, and our next door neighbor assumed it was just a straight line. And but the stakes were in the ground, like you were talking about, with the little ribbon on it at the back of the property. And we actually had to show him, no, this is where your property line is, because it was kind of in a little woodsy area where trees were.
He didn't know. He said that wasn't a fence, there wasn't anything through there. That's just the property line we're seeing. That's not a fence. Like there wasn't a fence here.
Okay, can I ask a quick question? Right here where it says subway line 50, whatever.
Yeah,
underground.
50 feet underground.
Okay, so that isn't an easement across that same property.
No,
It's
but
not.
it's a subsurface easement. Just like your mineral rights are subsurface, it's under there. You couldn't, like if this guy wanted to drill a well, he couldn't drill a well right there.
Okay. Because, okay.
Even though that's, you know, in the middle of his yard.
Wow.
Yeah, it's under there, and if there's a subway down there, you sure can't drill a well through it.
Okay.
But you know it's there.
Well, let me ask you this, on the piece of land I was talking about, the power lines ran behind that property, and so we had the access road for the power company. We couldn't build anything back there, even though that was considered
Yours, it's your land, yeah.
So that's what I thought that was, power
We've got,
line.
there's your power line right there coming in.
Okay.
See right there? And if it looks to me like it turned right here, and I see the power line going down through here, and there's probably a power pole somewhere down here. Usually your power line is real close to the property line, real close. Here it's not exact. But then the guy that was doing that said, well, here's the marker. And they just started drilling holes and put the lines out. I said, what else we got going? The coal company back here owns the mineral rights under all this. What else we got?
Now, you did say that under the personal easement, when the personal easement dies, with the land on the person, the personal easement dies
with the person.
With the person.
Yes.
Dies with the person.
So they don't have to get another person an easement if after that person died. They don't have to get another person easement like.
The new one, yeah.
Okay, because they're just like having a shared driveway.
Yeah. Well, a shared driveway is probably going to be deeded. You'll have that written in the deed. We're involved in one right now where
Not
there's a shared
necessarily.
driveway and the guy put a rock wall up on. He can still get into his side.
I know a lady that was sharing a driveway,
Yeah.
and the neighbors put a fence because
driveway.
Both of them shared the driveway. When both of them go in, she go to her house, she go to her house. But this one over here got mad with this one over there, and then she just went and put up a fence. So that's a personal easement.
Yeah, the one we're involved in right now, it's been going on about 2 years. They've been in and out of court and got depositions. It just, it's been a nightmare. But it was but it was written in the deed.
Well, this one wasn't written in the deed at our home house. Next our home house was my aunt's house.
Okay.
And so she wanted her garage a little bit bigger. So she came over on my grandmama's side, and then she got her driveway. So when she died, another person got that.
Okay.
So my mama, before my mama died, she showed him where he was actually, where he was going up the driveway with our land.
Okay. Good. I'm glad it's in a survey somewhere.
Yeah, with that particular one, but now, I don't know what happened to the lady with the shared driveway, but he was trying to get smart, so my mama went and got the deed and showed him, well, really, if I wanted to, you wouldn't even be able to get in your garage.
Yeah. Be nice.
Yeah, but he was a nice, and he was a preacher.
We got some nice things going on here, where you can be nice or be mean.
Yeah.
Right.
When you talk about those next two, I need the difference in that, because I get it
The
totally.
next two, which next two?
Certain and dominant. When you go there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that is that on.
Right there.
You gotta highlight it, so.
It's up on
Okay.
the easement.
Yeah, when you get ready to go to
All right.
Rush and you.
We'll address that right now. Let's just say this was not in the deed. This driveway right here was not in the deed. But this person that owned, say there was a house right here, and this person owned all of this, owned the whole thing. Now, they decided they wanted to sell off lots. And they made a line right across here and sold this lot to these people. These people, since it's the same owner, these people have the right to what's called ingress and egress. May not be right through the middle of the property. They may say, okay, you can come over here and come up through here, because there's a road. You can come off right here. I want a bigger lot. I don't want you to divide it in half. But they have the right, because you sold them this back half without any access to it. So you are going to have to serve them. This one is going to have to serve this one.
That's a dominant.
This one's dominant. They have the right to come through here. And they
Okay.
would say, you know, let's put you over here on the side or put you over here. But you sold it to them. So you have to give them access. You're the servient, they're the dominant. We got one by prescription. That's where he sold you that property and he's never said anything about it, and you just started driving in and out over here. Did that for years and years and years. You're going to claim easement by prescription. And you'll get to use that. You won't get to claim the property. You can just claim the use on it. It's use by prescription.
Well, what do Pancho? Did I say it right?
Poncho is
Poncho.
a poncho.
Oh, wow.
You've got the, let's see, what does poncho stand for? P-A-N-C-H-O. Possession.
Possession.
I'll have to look those up for you. I've forgotten the acronym on that. But each one of those stands for something you've got to do in order to get that prescription, easement by prescription.
Gotcha.
But it basically, you got to use it for a long time. They got to know you're using it. It's not just sneaking around doing it. They saw you going in and out.
Okay.
And you can claim that you've got the right to go in there
Okay.
and get out. That's ingress.
Adverse action, notarized, notorious,
Okay.
continuous, hostile, open, and taxes.
Okay.
So the dominant is in charge.
Yeah, the dominant's the one here that you've got to let them come through. The servient's going to serve the dominant. The dominant's this one back here.
Right.
Servient's up here. You got to serve this property.
So servant has to serve the dominant.
Mm-hmm.
The dominant does not have to serve.
Right,
Okay.
or the, yeah, the
Yeah.
dominant's being served.
Is being served.
Now, if this guy was not who sold you this property back here, let's just say, this was your land right here, and, the railroad or somebody came across here. They, we're getting into that, we don't need to go there, I'm just confuse y'all with that. Let's keep moving. Personal easement, get the lake, got all that, setback lines. On a survey, they'll have, like if it's in this one, you've got setback lines. It'll tell you on here somewhere that there's a setback line right there. You can't build any closer to this line than that line. That's your limit right there. And it'll also tell you somewhere that it's 15-foot setback here, maybe 15-foot setback here. So you can't build outside the setback lines. Okay, bulk zoning, that's kind of what these kind of things are. They're in gross bulk. Birmingham's got bulk zoning on height. You can't build a building downtown Birmingham over 34 stories. Reason, right on the final approach for the airport. Well, if you were like Atlanta and you got 100-story buildings, well, these airplanes are lower than that when they're coming by here. So they have a bulk zoning to keep the buildings down so the airplanes won't run into them.
Wow.
This is called a spot survey because Spot's house is on it. If it's a sketch survey, it just is going to have like the points, and a surveyor can still find all that. Mentioned license
Yes.
down there at the bottom. That's temporary, like a movie ticket, a sports ticket going into a football game. That's a license. You're allowed to use those facilities for a certain event, certain time, but you still got restrictions on you. We went into the football game, you couldn't carry an umbrella in. It's raining. Well, you still can't carry an umbrella in. Nobody can carry an umbrella in. That's in the license.
With the book bags, clear book bags?
Clear book bags, yeah.
Because they
I
don't
have
look at
that.
that now.
They want to, see what you got in there.
Before you get in there.
Methods of measurements, we'll be able to jump through this because we've already done methods of measurement. Space, volume, living area, land measurements. We've already done this one. Remember how we worked through this? Front foot, 450, depth, 484 to figure the square footage. We multiply the front foot by the depth and
400 square feet, 60 feet,
Yeah.
40 feet. Right there at the top.
okay, that's Spot's house right here. 60 feet across, 40 feet deep. His house is 2,400 square feet. Now, only heated and cooled above ground square footage is counted. If it's underground, like basement, that's not counted in your square footage. Living area, your main level, heated and cooled. Spot's house, even though it's 2,400 square feet, he's got a garage that's 20 feet by 20 feet. So he's got a 400 square foot garage. It's not heated or cooled. You don't live in that area. So you don't count that as living area. So you would have to subtract the 400 feet from the 2,400, and he's got 2,000 square feet of living area. That's also HVAC, heating, HV, ventilation, and air conditioning.
What if he ran heating and air?
Doesn't matter. It's still, it's
It still
not
won't be
living area.
counted. It won't be counted.
No, it's where you
What-
park the cars.
Right, but
Well,
what
in the
if,
basement, if you.
Basement not counted because it's below ground.
Even
That's
if
not
it's.
counted as your living area.
Wow.
Now, on our MLS, you have main level square footage. This may be, let's say, a story and a half. So it may have 1,200 square feet on top.
Yeah.
That's living area. It's heated, cool, bedrooms, bathrooms, you live there. So that's counted. Main level's counted. Basement is cheaper. You've got all the concrete's there for the floor, the walls are already there, and then you built on top of that. Even though you finished it in and it looks just like the rest of it, it's still below grade.
So no matter what you did to it, just
Doesn't matter
because
what you did
it's
to it, it's
below
not
grade.
counted in it. But what you do is in your MLS listing, you've got your main level and then upper level. Those are your living areas, if it's a story and a half with a full basement. Then you come back in and there's a basement area. Unfinished or finished. How much is finished?
Right.
How much unfinished?
Well, in a typical basement, you're going to have probably 400 square feet or more as your garage part. And then the rest of it you may have finished. You may have a mother-in-law suite down there that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting ready to
That's what I'm
ask
saying.
is if you had that 400 square feet of garage and you converted it into a mother-in-law suite and you added the heat and cooling, could you
Now
count
it's
it?
different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a garage
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
a,
that's
it's a,
garage.
it's a room now.
Yes,
But
it's a
it-
room now.
Because it got the heat and the air.
Right.
Okay.
But
That's
the
real
basement's
popular
still-
in Florida. You see a lot of houses in Florida where they converted their one-car garage into a den or bedroom or something. Real common down there.
But it doesn't go the same for a finished basement.
Now, finished basement, you've got, it's not as valuable
As a garage
as,
that you
and that's,
finished?
well, your garage is just kind of sitting over there.
Yeah.
Garages are valuable, but they don't count in your square foot of livable area. Only heating, ventilated, and air conditioning. That's what's counted as livable area. Now, your basement, if it's below ground, if it's, daylight basement where it's pretty much the same, because you see a lot of these, y'all were talking Bessemer, Flint Hills down there.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of them, the basements,
Above
main
ground.
level. Well, that's not really basement, that's a level.
Right.
And half of it's probably finished, half of it's garage.
Right.
But if it's below ground, then it doesn't count.
Okay.
But in your MLS listing, when you list it, you talk about, well, there's 2,400 square feet, well, it's actually 2,000 square feet of livable, and then you're going to talk about the basement. There's a 800 square feet of finished basement, and you'll come up with a value for that. The main level may be worth $100 a square foot.
More than the basement.
Yeah, and then your basement, the fact, those walls were already, you didn't have to finish out all the, you didn't have to spend as much money to make this a room.
But when we built our old house, we paid like 50,000 extra to have the basement poured, but it was underground. So it does have some type of value, or it should.
Well, yeah, it's got value, but not the same value.
As
And
the
you
other
don't
two
count it
floors.
as livable area.
Because of the heat and cooling.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But the whole point is, it's counted, but not as much as the other two floors.
Right, it's
in the
not
house.
worth as much.
Right.
Gotcha.
You'll have to
Okay.
figure out how much
Wow.
is this really worth down here, because when we get into post license, we're gonna price houses. And you'll break out segments. All right, this is worth this much. Well, the basement's not worth as much, but I've got 800 square feet down there. Gotta be worth something.
Right.
So let's figure out what it actually is worth, and then we add that to the $100 a square foot on this level, and we got a value for the house.
So that's how the appraiser go by doing that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, there's our lot, 450 by 484. We got a total of 217,000 square feet. This is where you've got to know how many square feet are an acre, because they're going to say you have a lot that is 450 by 484. Land in this area sells for about $30,000 an acre. How much is yours worth? Uh-oh, that means I need to stop at the 7-Eleven store and ask them. Now, because if you don't have that 43,560 in your head, you can't solve that problem.
Right.
And here's how it works. Thought I had more of that. I guess on that other one we carried that further. But your land would have, you got 5 acres of land there.
So you, okay, 450 times 484.
Divided by the 43,560, there's our square foot an acre. So you got 5 acres. Now, if you've got a property with 5 acres, and you've got other properties here that are just in this community, you can't compare this property with one that's sitting on 5 acres. You've got to separate out that 5 acres and figure out, okay, well, the land around here is worth $30,000 an acre. So you got $150,000 worth of land that you've got to account for. But you got to know how many square feet are in an acre before you can get there. And the problem's going to be, your lot is this big and it's worth $30,000 an acre. How much is your land worth? All right, let's answer a few questions here. What are our 3 methods of legal description?
Meets and bounds.
Meets and bounds.
Legal description? No. Meets and bounds.
Method.
Correct.
Thomas Jefferson told you about one of them that he helped create. Rectangular, government survey, geodetic is another name for it. It's got 3 names.
Oh, yes, I would have remembered you.
Yeah, all 3 of them. Yeah. And our other one is the lot and block. You'll have questions that probably have a question on which one is which. What do you have to make the legal description sufficient?
Lot,
Maria.
subdivision, is it county and city?
All right, that's all on what kind of survey?
Oh, the lot and block.
Lot and block,
Okay.
yes, you got that right. Yeah, all 5
So
of
it's different per method?
them. We had what I'm looking for, what makes it sufficient, we had a definition. A surveyor
Oh, yeah.
must be able to find that piece of property. That's what makes it sufficient. If a surveyor can find the property, they can find it from the legal description, whether it's a lot and block, whether it's a meets and bounds,
Okay.
or a rectangular. A surveyor can find it just from those words. Is the street address enough?
No.
No. You gotta have more than that because there's a lot of 1, 2, 3 main streets.
Right. No.
What is meant by meets?
The distance.
Distance, meters, meets, meters. Tie those together. And then bounds is gonna be direction. What is your POB?
Your point of beginning.
Point of beginning. And that comes back around and ends up as your
Starting point.
port of ending. You end right where you begin. Well, here you go. Another name for a rectangular survey?
Lot.
Geodetic.
Geodetic, okay.
And government survey. Which directions do township tiers run?
Oh, yeah.
Township lines? Township lines, tiers run this way. Ranges run this way. And where the township lines and range lines intersect, we have a little square that's 6 miles by 6 miles, and it's called a what?
Section.
Township. Township is where our township lines and range lines intersect. 6 miles by 6 miles. Now within that 6 by 6, what have we got?
36 what?
36 what?
Square miles.
Square miles, and they're all, each one's called a
Section.
section. Inside that section, how many acres do you have?
1. No.
40? You said 40? Not 40.
Acres.
We talked about 40 acres and
Oh,
40
yeah.
sections. A section has
Is it 240?
640. 640 acres in a section. Okay, we just got that. How long How long is the section on one side?
1
1 mile. How many feet is that?
mile. 7-Eleven, so it's big.
5,280.
There we go. I just saw her. I'm in Homewood. We'll go 5 miles down Highway 280. I saw that happen. Yeah, we got acres in the section. How many sections are in a township?
Oh,
36.
yeah.
And remember, they start numbering on the right and come backwards and then drop down, and it's kind of like a snake going back and forth. There it is. Now here's how you describe it. When they give you a description of a piece of property in a rectangular survey, they're going to first give you the township that it's in. They'll start with the township. Remember Hoover was like 19 south, 3 west. If you've got Huntsville Meridian, 19 south, 3 west, that gets you pretty much right here. Now right here is covering 6 miles by 6 miles. That's a section. That's a section. That's 1 mile across by 1 mile down. Where is this section? When you read it backwards. Remember, this is a government survey. Just like our sections are numbered backwards, this is backwards. You start off, you've got your township, your range, then they'll say section 36 or 24 or whatever section it is, that gets you down to boom. So you're within 1 mile of where you need to be right there. That's what this is. This has got 640 acres in it. So there's a quarter of a section, going to have 160. Half of that's going to have 80, and then the 40 acres in a mule is half of that. Now to find out where this section is, we start out with the last entry, the southeast 1/4. So south and east quarter. There it is, right there. There's the east, so that's the southeast quarter. From there it says the northwest quarter. So we're going to be, we got there, now we're going to be the north and the west. And then the southwest quarter of that. So again, south and west. That's the piece we're after right there. And you can get that just from this.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. There's too much here to really get deep in. Get the surface here. It's only 2 questions. And we spent 2 hours to do 2 questions.
There's too many numbers.
But there's just too much stuff. I'm saying just get the gist of it.
Like the acres.
Yeah,
and the
know that
township.
stuff, and you can figure the rest of this out. Because if they ask you how many acres are in this section, and they drew this little diagram for you, how many acres are in that section? Well, you know there's 640. That's the number you had to write here. That was your 3rd number. You know that one. Otherwise, you can't solve this. So you got your 640 here. From your 640, okay, well that looks like that's 1/4 of that. So I'm going to divide it by 4. And there's a 4th again. I'm going to divide it by 4 and another 4. So just keep dividing it by how many pieces you've got. There's a shortcut for all you math majors. It's really simpler once you see it. Don't have any math majors in here? I got political science, and I've got social work, and I've got
Ain't got no mathematics.
no math and no math majors. All right.
No.
If you know the 640, you can come back here and pull out your denominators and multiply them to get 64 and put that under the 640, and you got 10 acres.
Oh, well, why don't we just start there?
Well, because you're probably going to need to know how this works, because you're going to sit there with the problem. I'm going to draw it out. Cause I wasn't a math major either.
Okay.
Yeah, his dad.
Wasn't an art major either, but I can draw squares. And I can keep bringing the squares down tighter and keep dividing it by 4.
You were actor.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
I went to acting school. But just keep drawing it down. But if you want to do it this way, that's how you do it.
So, we'll do it that way.
All right, how many acres in a quarter of a section? It's gonna be, we start out with how many in the whole thing? 640, so if we got a quarter of that, we're gonna divide it by 4. And there it is, divide by 4. How many square feet in an acre?
711.
Mm-hmm.
So
43,
43, yep.
560.
We got that one, 560. You gotta know that number. I got a Sharpie in here that y'all can write this on your hand tonight and then be looking at it for the next 3 weeks before a test, and it'll be gone by then, but you'll know it. There it is. Lot and block, we just did that one. We had to be in the right state, right county, the subdivision name, and then we've got block, lot. There it is. Sketch just shows the location, dimensions. Spot shows Spot's house, also known as an as-is survey. Okay, we knocked through that one. Encumbrance and liens, and we got 30 minutes. Liens. You need to associate these 2 words together.
Lien and money.
Lien money. Thank you, prep agent, for that one. Don't mind using your stuff. Lien money, lien money. That's what he says. Lien money, lien money, lien money. Get those 2 words hooked together. Because a lien is about money. A lien doesn't give them the right to use your property. It's just a claim against your property. Now we can have different kinds of liens. We can have one that's voluntary, or we can have one that's involuntary. Voluntary is one you ask for. I need a mortgage on my house for the money. That mortgage is a lien on your house. Remember, mortgage, we got the word backwards. I'm going to go give a mortgage. I'm not going to go get a mortgage. I'm going to go give a mortgage, and what you're doing is you're giving them a lien on your house. And the other part of that is a promissory note you sign.
I had a question on that vote on that.
But it is voluntary. You ask for it. Please, I need money. You can have a lien on my house if you'll give me money. Voluntary. The other one is involuntary. Involuntary is going to be where the city decided they wanted to put curbs, sidewalks in front of your house. You really didn't want them, but they're putting them all the way down the street. They can't stop at your property and then jump over and start sidewalk on the other side. Not going to happen. They're going to put it right through your yard, and they're going to give you a bill for it. That's going to be involuntary. You didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, but you got it anyway. Both of those liens are specific to a property. Your mortgage on that house is just on that house. They don't have a lien on anything else you own.
Just to the property.
Specific to that property. Now, the involuntary lien, in this case, is specific to that property, but you can also have an involuntary lien if you didn't pay your federal taxes. They're going to put a lien on you, and that's going to affect every property you own. That's a general lien. This one's specific to that property. The other one is general. All right? as these liens, if the house is sold, these liens are going to be paid based on the time they were put against your property. First one is probably going to be the first mortgage. As soon as you got up from the closing table, the mortgage people were running down to the courthouse to file a lien on that particular property. It's first in line, first in time to get the money. So when the house sells or foreclosed on or whatever happens to it, the title company is going to run a search. First mortgage gets first money. We've talked about the other mortgages, second mortgages, HELOCs, income to all those liens, materialman's liens. We talked about those yet? No? Okay, well, maybe tonight's the night.
It did say something, he lost. That's the, I mean, that was on.
Okay, involuntary. Property tax is involuntary, and property tax goes to the first of the line. It jumps ahead of the first mortgage. It's unrecorded, but everybody knows it's there. So when you sell the house, first thing is property taxes have got to be paid. Brought up, they're actually prorated up to closing day. And then the first mortgage gets the next money. Second mortgage, I guess the curb lien probably jumps up with the property tax. That probably has second priority. But normally it's going to be property taxes, first lien, second lien. Then there may be something, a materialman's lien, mechanics lien, where you had work done on the house and didn't pay the people. Well, they put a lien on your house. So when it sells, they're going to get paid. Your HOA, if you're in a community with HOA dues and you don't pay them, it's a lien. They don't have to record it. They're going to run a title search and they're going to call the homeowner association. Are they up to date? I need a statement as of this closing date. Well, they haven't paid their HOA in 14 months. Okay, well that's money's coming right off now. Income tax will be a general lien on the owner, the person, not the property. It'll be on all the property you own in that county.
Wow.
And we go to the IRS. They can lock it. They can actually take your house and
They do
sell it.
anything they want to do.
They can take it and sell it. They can come in and take your stuff out.
All your stuff.
That's only if you get ugly with them. As long as you will play the game with them and set up some kind of tight payment plan and stick to it, they'll leave you alone. But if you get ugly with them and blow up at them, they can blow up higher than you can blow up.
Yeah.
Everything you own. Now here, income tax, they're based on when they were filed. Like your property tax, always first of the line, and then it's based on a recording date. First mortgage, second mortgage. When this got recorded is when it fell in line. Judgments. That's what you would have there. You got a judgment against you. Well, it's going to fall in line based on when it was filed at the courthouse. Garnishment, you can have your bank account garnishment, your wages. Don't pay your bills. Some people will come after you. Thing about a judgment, you got to renew it every 10 years. Even the one back up here, the income tax, the IRS, they can get a judgment against you for not paying your taxes for the last 12 years, and they finally caught you. Well, they're going to put a lien against you, general judgment against you. You may own 15 properties in this county. It's on your name. So anything you sell over here, anything you sell anywhere in this county, they're going to be in line. And they're going to get a little piece of whatever it was. But it has to be every 10 years. It goes away. And if they don't renew it, and the IRS is going to renew it for another 10 years, they're going to have 20 years that they can collect money from you. You can't hide for 20 years. Eventually, you're gonna have to go to work.
I would hope so.
And then they can garnish, I don't know what percentage of your pay they can give, but I think it's 25% of your pay that they can get.
Yeah, wow.
And we got these are private restrictions. No, land use affecting, okay, oh, this is about, all right, we've already covered this. Property tax, first in line, got that recorded, specific to the property. Okay, we got all that covered. Material, mechanics, we got that. Down the bottom, let's just say you have you're gonna get a mechanics lien against these people because they got you to come in and do this work on their house because they're getting ready to sell it. Well, you don't want them to go ahead and sell it before you get the lien on there. So you can file a thing called lis pendens. That means I'm gonna sue you. And you file that, and then that will pop up when they do the title search. We got some non-possessionary rights. What do we got here? Runs with the land. Partner, we had some of those. We had the driveway going up through there. That runs with the land. Next people that buy it, that stays there. We got necessity, got prescription, and gross. We got those. Personal. Servient serves the dominant. Dominant is being served. License, got that. Easements, ingress and egress, same thing we just did. Leases, you got a lease on your property. We did that one first of class. She had a lease on the property you owned, you sold it, the lease is still in place. And she stays there until the end of that lease. Well, the new owner may like, that may be the reason they did it. We do what we call turnkey stuff in this business. Somebody will buy a house, fix it, rent it, put a tenant in it. Now it's worth more. It's got a cash flow. Remember, we could figure cash flow and get a rate of return. That's what the house is worth now. It's worth more with a tenant in it, giving you cash every month. So you can sell it, but you may want to keep them in there. They have the right to stay there. Now, if you went in, not sold it, but went into bankruptcy
Not me.
or foreclosure, then that lease is void because you you lost.
No.
Well, we were using y'all as
No, don't use me on that either. No. I don't like that example. No.
Yeah.
And we've had these situations too, where the owner goes bankrupt. And usually the first sign we get of it is the bank will show up at the property, knocking on the door saying, "Where's our payment?" And they say, "Well, we're just tenants."
Wow.
It happens. When you buy property and there are people in it leasing it, get a copy of the lease. Read it. What rights do they have? The owner may have thought ahead, knowing I'm buying this property to sell it as a turnkey. So I want to write this in here that we're selling as turnkey. They've got rights. Or you may write in there when you sign the lease with her that I'm going to flip this house and the new people may want to live in it, so you're going to be on a month-to-month lease. And you can stay there. They may want to convert you to a period lease. We're going to get the leases. But for right now, they're on month-to-month. Only need one period, one notice, 1 month to tell them they got to go. Encroachments, we got that. That was the garage on the property line. That will not turn up in a title search. That'll only turn up in a survey. Now, when we sell a piece of property and it's got an old fence on it and these people have been there a long time, survey probably not necessary. But just say you saw something like that, a garage that looks like it may be over on or there's a new fence. Let's get a survey. about $400 or so for a regular size survey. But if it's on there, now's the time to find out, not after we close, because once you closed, you bought it.
So encroachment only will show up in a survey.
Right, it will not show up in title search. And it's not covered by your title insurance either. Well, how could it be? They don't know it's there. Okay, you got covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Those are called CC&Rs. Y'all will hear that a lot, CC&Rs. It may be something like in a community of new homes. They may be garden homes, and they may write something in there that says you can't park RVs here. You can't have a storage building here. You can only have your house. And it'll say minimum square footage for this house. It may tell you what color roof, what color door, what kind of mailbox. Well, you bought it, you signed off on these, you've got to follow those rules.
Mine even says you can't have your garage door up.
For real?
Yeah.
And I don't make it up.
Now, there are some conditions in a deed. These are things that when you sell your property to somebody, you're guaranteed, you're promising these things are there. The covenants of season against encumbrance, quiet enjoyment, warranty of future title. These are just guarantees you're giving. I'm selling you fee simple ownership. I guarantee nobody's ever coming to attack your title. And I will defend you till the end of time. That's what title insurance does. These are the things that it guarantees that I will do for you. Now, this is what we were just talking about, the CC&Rs in a community. And it runs with the land. You sell that house 17 times, those CC&Rs are written, that's part of the deed. Private restrictions, that is the mailbox, roof colors, all that. You can't have cars sitting out in the front yard in blocks.
I put one day away, but you know.
Can't put the washing machine on the front porch.
No, a couch either.
No couch on the front porch. It'll cover that.
Or of course it'll be in the house.
I believe we've got all that covered. All right, here's actually what one looks like. This is recorded. It says right up there, recorded. When it was recorded, and here's the county. What's the county over there too? The plat book, everything about this. When, and then it goes down here. Here are the conditions. No dwelling shall be erected upon or allowed to occupy any part of this property less than 1,000 square feet. That's not a very big house. But you can't build anything smaller than that. I don't see where it says how big it can be, but it can't be any smaller than 1,000. Also goes on to talk about no dwelling shall be located nearer than 20 feet from the front boundary. That's our setback line. 20 feet. Got to be that far from the curb or center of the street or something it'll note. I think this one also says you can't have storage building out there. There we go. No part used except for residential purpose. No building shall be erected, altered, placed, permitted. This lays out what you can do on your property. Your property.
Ain't that something?
What's the difference between voluntary and involuntary?
Voluntary is a lien you requested, like
asked
a mortgage, a first mortgage. Involuntary is like the sidewalk scenario. They put a sidewalk, or your homeowners association dues weren't paid. That's involuntary. They put a lien against it.
Specific to what?
The property.
That general is all your properties. What type of lien is a mortgage?
Specific.
Specific, voluntary, and let's see.
Specific and voluntary.
There's one more. What's the other one? It'll come to me in a minute. It's getting late. My brain's already turning off.
I know what you mean.
Which one's the dominant tenement?
The one that's being
The
served.
one in the back, probably. The one being served. What determines the order of liens paid?
The date of the property tax.
The date of
The date of
The
the
date of file.
Fi-
The date of
filing as
file.
recorded.
recorded date.
Which
The
one's
one
serving?
that gave the commission?
Yeah, well, that's the one that was probably on the street that sold off the back part. Now, they gotta serve that back part.
Yeah. So what would that be? What is the word, what is the term, which is, go back. It says,
No,
which
Right
property
there.
is, oh, it said which property is the servant? Okay, the one at the front.
Yeah,
Okay.
pertinent. Attaches to and runs with the land. Your CC&Rs are pertinent to that property. Encroachment,
You
You're
over the property line
Yeah.
onto somebody else.
what's the words here?
Your covenant, your,
One of them.
Conditions, restrictions.
And so we just did that
covenant
two slides
conditions and
ago.
restrictions.
Covenants,
Got a far.
Conditions and
conditions,
restrictions.
restrictions.
Yes.
Yes, it can become a lien. That's more
why I can't drive,
That's more
why I
Lynn
can't
Elder
drive.
stuff there. Thank you, Lynn. You're making me look good. How did we get these words? Ownership, title, deeds. It all, remember, all this is Old English. Our laws came from Old England, common law. Here's how it all started. People of title were the only ones that owned land. You had to be a lord, a king, or something, a knight, to own land. How'd you get a title?
Had to be
You had
bestowed
to-
upon
You
you.
had to do a good deed. You had to do some kind of deed for the landowner, the king, or somebody. You may have been just somebody, but you joined the king's army and went and fought in
Took
a
an arrow
war.
for the king.
You did a deed for the king, and maybe you got 40 acres and a mule for it when you got back. Lords received land from the king, and then the land, that's where landlord came from. The tenants worked the Lord's land. And our tenant farmers, they would work the land for the landlord and give the landlord
His cut.
his cut, just like a pimp. The landlord's pimp.
You got to get,
You know we're in there. Here it is, John, for your good deeds in rescuing the princess, I confer upon you the title of knight and give you ownership of all the land south of the Thames River. That sounds almost like a meets and bounds, doesn't it? All right, we got the matching quiz here. Well, let's don't do that now. We don't have time to do that. But it's in here so y'all can do it. And we got one more little section here to run through, and we will be through. Tenants in common joint, this is a way we can hold property. Freehold. This right back here, that's freehold. He didn't put any conditions on there. He said, I give you the ownership of the land south of the Thames River. He didn't say you must build a house with at least 1,000 square feet. You can't put,
at his discretion.
yeah, you can't, and you didn't put anything on it.
No.
It's a freehold.
Do what you want to do.
That's a freehold. He can do what he wants to with it. There's no restrictions on it. His heirs get to inherit that property. It's not for, like a lease is for a certain amount of time, freehold is forever. And unless you've got that little defeasible thing written in your deed, then nobody can take it away from you. All other estates, that's called a tenancy. Tenancy is the way you hold something. All other tenancies are created from freehold. We've already done that one. We've already done this one. Oh no,
Not
life
that
estate. Mom has fallen.
Yeah, she
Somebody's
can't
gonna
get
have to
up.
take care of her now. What are we gonna do?
Put her in a nursing home.
Well, not in this class. In this class, we're gonna give her a life estate in this class. We had our freehold, we've already got that. A life estate, a life tenant gets freehold indefinite time, but that time is based on someone's life. It can either be the person living there, that's an ordinary life estate, or based on the life of another.
Well, let me ask you this, I think you mentioned it in the last class, when instead of going to the nursing home, your grandfather bought the house and then had the in-law suite and all of that, was that?
He didn't have a life estate.
Okay.
No. And that was a freehold estate, and my sister, she had the freehold estate. He was just a tenant, basically. They could have written it up that way, but they didn't need to. They get possession. The only thing, they can't waste the property. They gotta take care of it. They gotta pay the taxes on it. They own the property. It's just for a certain amount of time, based on either their life, or maybe somebody's taking, I don't know, somebody else, caretaker. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who else's life would it even be. Somebody had internet land.
Or a child or something, wouldn't it? Would it be?
Could be based on someone else's, but it's just like you own it.
Yeah.
You gotta take care of it, pay taxes, do everything about it. There may be a mortgage on it still. You're gonna have to pay that mortgage, but you get to stay there. Reversionary, once this life estate is over, what's gonna happen? Is it gonna go back to the original owner? Well, a lot of times this kind of stuff is set up to take care of things after the original owner's gone.
Yeah, when they die.
So you have this one, the remainder man. So the owner may be dead and gone, so it's going to go to somebody else, and that'll be written in the life estate too. After this terminates, it goes to grandchildren.
Yeah. Oh, this what they call heir property?
Yeah, heirs. Heirs are the ones that inherit it. We can hold property in 3 different ways. This is one of them, the multiple owners here. Joint tenancy typically will be husband and wife. Does not have to be. It can be father, daughter, brothers. It can be anybody in joint tenancy. There's another one, y'all see in some of these tests, called tenancy by the entirety. We don't do that in Alabama. That works like this, except it is exclusively married couples. Y'all will see that. Don't take that bait if that's one of your answers, because that won't be in Alabama. Yours will be joint tenancy. Now, joint tenancy is created by the acronym PIT. Possession, interest, time, and title. The owners take possession on the same title, the same time, the same interest. Joint tenancy, if you've got 3 people on it, they each have 1/3 undivided interest. You can't claim to go over in your part, because there is no your part. It's all ours.
Yeah.
At the same time, on the same title. Now, if, let's just say, we have joint tenancy, or the 3 of us have joint tenancy. Now, we all own the same amount, same rights, same everything. Now, I fall over dead. What happens to my property, my part, my ownership?
Go to your children?
No,
Where
not
is it?
on joint tenancy. Joint tenancy, the other 2 owners
With right of
will get
survivorship.
my part.
Then it'll be divided between.
Yeah, y'all will own half and half now. You die, she gets all of it.
Okay.
Now, I know I'm fixing to die, I can go ahead and sell my part to someone else. But they do not come in as a joint tenant. They come in as a tenant in common. Y'all still have half interest, that one of you dies, the other one gets it.
Okay.
She dies, her heirs get it
Oh, like that.
by her will, or if she doesn't have a will, by escheat. It's somebody else is gonna get it. Y'all not getting it.
And she wouldn't be joint tenancy, she would.
No,
what?
she'll be tenant in common with them. Now, the way you remember joint tenancy, you're wanting one of them to die.
Wow.
'Cause that's the way you're gonna get it all if they die. So husband and wife probably are smoking a joint.
Uh-oh.
And one of them hands it to the other one and says, no, honey, I insist, you go first.
Oh, but he trying to kill her. That's what you got to watch.
No, honey, I
Murder,
insist.
she wrote.
I insist. You go first.
Oh, they got some lace with something.
Okay. Tenants in common. Tenants in common is what you'll have with a condominium community. You've got two ownerships there. The unit itself, you can own husband and wife, joint tenancy. Y'all can sit up there and smoke your joint all day long. One of you's gonna die, the other one's gonna get it. But the pool down here,
That way they gonna throw you in the
they're
dash.
gonna throw you down in the pool. Don't let the roach go.
Told you. What finna happen?
The common areas are in tenancy in common. You're in the pool with the common people.
Okay.
Each of you own an indivisible ownership of, if there's 100 units here, you own 1% of the pool. But you can't say the steps are mine.
No.
You can't say which part is yours. You own 1% of the total. When you sell your condominium, you can't keep your part of the pool. It's a pertinent, that right is a pertinent ownership that goes with this one.
Wow.
Okay, just did that. The other type is a trust. This is where Grandpa owns some property over here. And grandchild is only 10 years old, but wants the grandchild to go to school and then have a little money to get started. So Grandpa will set up a trust and turn the ownership of this property over to a trustee. The trustee will be like a management company or a bank. There are banks that have trust departments. That's what they do. They handle people's estates like that. And the grandchild would get the benefit of the income from this property. Sometime down the road, there's something that says it'll all go to him at a certain age or something. You can write it any way you want. But there are three people, trustor, trustee, beneficiary. Okay, we just talked about condominiums, also known horizontal property laws. And we just talked about this. The development itself is broken into two parts. The building will have individual owners, and you only own the airspace. You own the paint on this wall. You can put whatever color paint you want on this wall, but you can't knock a hole in the wall. Because there's somebody else on the other side of this wall, and they've got just as much ownership to the wall as you do. So you can't fool with the structure. You can't decide, well, I want another window over here.
You can't do
Can't do that. They got strict rules. You can sell your airspace, mortgage it, do whatever you want to with it. The common area, the parking lot, the pool, all the other stuff belongs to everybody as tenants in common, and when you sell yours, that part just goes along with it. Each unit pays probably a homeowners association, and in condominiums, it's steep, because a lot of times you'll have like waters included in it, especially the older ones. You had like one water meter that did everybody. So you may have a water bill on there. Your HOA fee could be $300. Ouch, every month. But that covers the pool and all this other stuff. Let's see, what else we got down there? You'll pay property taxes on your unit. A declaration of condominium. When you do a new project, you gotta have all these things in it. You gotta have the declaration. We're going to create a condominium development here. Besides saying that, you gotta say, their legal description. Oh, we know how to do that now. It's this, boom, yeah, data, we got all that. We know how that works now. There'll be bylaws in there, what are these called? Rules.
CCRs.
The survey will go along with the legal description. There's drawings. That's called an elevation. When you look at a picture of a building, that's called an elevation. You can change the elevations by like moving the windows around, changing the pitch of the roof, all that kind of stuff. Restrictions and covenants. All right, here's just a breakdown of the different types. You've got just a single owner. So these are easy, as easy to remember as 1, 2, 3. If you can remember 1, 2, 3, you can remember the different ownerships. 1, that's called severalty, and that means you are severed from any other owners. When I first saw that, I said, severalty is 1? No, severalty sounds like it's a bunch. No, it means you are severed from all others. You just own it yourself. Husband and wife can both own properties in their own name and not even tell the other one. It happens.
Yeah, it is.
It happens. Joint tenancy, that's our either
Just survivorship.
yeah, joint tenancy, right of survivorship. Usually husband and wife, doesn't have to be. We got that covered. Tenants in common, that's another 2 or more people. You may have 100 or 1,000, and they can have different ownership interest. Let's just say we're going to do a development here. We're going to build an apartment.
Okay.
And I've got all the money, but you've got all the marketing skills and all that, and you're a builder. Well, the 3 of us can go in together and do a joint venture. Probably going to be smoking a joint there, won't we? Just see, I hear it coming. I hear it coming.
So then percentages.
Percentages can be different. I got the money. Remember the rule?
Yeah.
Those with the gold make the rules. That's the golden rule. I may have 80% ownership, and you may each have 10%. Or I may have 40. It doesn't matter. It can be split anyway. And then condominium, we've covered that.
So those were the types of freehold estates?
Yes.
Yes.
Those are freehold estates. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Freehold.
Okay.
One easy is 1, 2, 3. And in condominiums down there is kind of a hybrid. It can be any or all. What's the highest form of ownership? Freehold. I'm gonna
Why
have
is
to help
it,
y'all out here at the
considered the
last minute.
highest, why is it considered the highest form?
It's freehold because you hold
No,
all the rights. You
No
nobody
restrictions,
knows
you can
nothing.
do whatever you want to with it.
Anything you want to do. Now, freehold can have restrictions like HOA restrictions, CCNRs, but you don't have any other restrictions on you. Like you only own this, like a lease. A lease comes from freehold. It's got restrictions.
On like condominium.
Yeah, you got restrictions on you there, but still it's a freehold ownership. You've just still got restrictions on how you can use it. The ownership itself is still freehold.
Okay.
UP'd,
Use, possession, exclusion,
encumber and
disposition.
disposition. That's another word for dispose. Joint tenancy, 2 at least. Could be 3, 4, could be more, but at least 2.
Must have the same amount of
Yeah.
equal
Pit, possession, interest, time, and title, all
at the
equal.
same time.
Tenants in common.
With the pool.
Mm-hmm. Swimming in the pool with the common people, so you remember that. There's 100 people in the pool with me.
So I own 8% of the
The
common
pool.
area.
Uh-huh, but I
But I
can't
can't take it with me.
mine.
Yeah, I can't, and I can't take it with me.
You can't put a little fence around the step and charge people
Mm-hmm.
entry fee. How can a freehold owner lose their ownership? Well, yeah, they would die, they would lose their ownership, but how could they lose it another way?
Sell it.
Oh.
Get it foreclosed, lose it to taxes, get a lien on it, and that gets called. Ooh,
Did we
did
talk
we even
about
talk
that?
about this word?
No.
That was back on our life estate.
Yeah.
Pure object, and I tell you,
Is that French?
Yes.
it's one of those words.
Okay,
Um,
Like a tenant.
This means for the life of another.
okay.
Life
There it is,
estate,
right there, portrait V.
Right there,
On the
right
freehold
above.
estate.
okay?
Life of another, portrait V. You
And it
see?
may be based on the life of the tenant, the person living there. But poor, I guess I need to put that word on there too. Life of another. Ordinary life estate is the life of the person that's living there, because they own it, just like a regular owner. It's just, there's actually a time limit based on either their life or somebody else's life. So it doesn't go forever.
So per Archer B is not the life of a tenant, it's the life of another.
Life of another.
Okay.
Ordinary life estate is based on the person living there, the owner.
Okay.
Parties to a trust,
But like, the bank.
yeah, we're on the right track. Trustor, trustee,
Oh, the
beneficiary. Horizontal property laws. We're going up, so it must be a,
Like what is it? Air.
If it's going up, it's coming down.
so the building, you gotta,
Oh, you got to make the foundation stable.
Your,
Latitude.
no, your,
condominiums.
Oh,
Condominium law, also known as horizontal property laws or condominium laws.
no, I mean,
All right, we finished 5 minutes early, so how'd we do? Ownership, learning objectives. Did we determine the characteristics of real and personal property? We did. Describe how property boundaries are defined, or identified? Yes, we did. Can we measure structures and the land? Understand the effects of liens and other encumbrances? And recall the types of ownership. Yes, we did. All right, we got one more thing here. We got to memorize 100 ways. No?
no,
Y'all
not
don't want to do that
tonight.
tonight?
Not tonight.
We
no.
got still 4 more minutes.
Okay.
We can memorize 100 between now and then.
Oh, now you're a comedian.
without,
Oh.
You're a comedian and let's go
Oh,
home.
let's go home.
Comedian actor slash pimp.
If y'all want to learn more about the Louisiana Purchase, I got a link here to, I think, a History Channel on it.
History channel.
Forged deed. All right, that's it for tonight. Appreciate y'all being here. We covered a lot of new stuff tonight. Thursday night, I'm not sure what we're doing Thursday night.
We don't want to talk about Thursday night.
You heard what I said, recap?
Yeah, we review what we did tonight.